We're on. Excellent.
All
right.
Four members, don't we, Matt? Isn't Todd a member?
Yeah, well, it's you and me and Todd. There's no more Phyllis.
Oh, that's right. And no, there you go. You're right. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry.
We're going to miss her energy.
We will.
I'm going to miss her energy.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome, folks, to our first and over a year meeting of the Stormwater Task Force Committee. Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. I have a little bit of a ditty to read. So, in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19 coronavirus, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread, and all town facilities are open by appointment only, which I think may be different now. I don't think it's appointment only. Certain hours, anyways. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. This meeting will be recorded and will be able to be found on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel 24 hours after the meeting. The following information is also provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link below, which is useless. So go to our town calendar and find the agenda. Or telephone, dial the toll-free number 888-475-4499 and enter the webinar ID 873-9634-6451 #. If you have not registered with Zoom, you will be asked for your name and an email address. Note, no participant ID is needed. Just press pound when asked. Telephone users may dial *9 to request to speak after joining the meeting. Computer and app users may use the raise hand feature to request to speak. The agenda lists all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and all items and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. So it is 7:03. We have called to order, and I will just do a run down the list, make sure everybody's here, can hear, and we can hear them. So we have Heather Lemieux, the town manager.
Here.
We have John Rabbit.
Here.
Todd Dwyer.
Present.
Adam Burney.
I'm here.
Nick Christofori.
I'm here.
And Rob Oliver.
I'm here.
Excellent. So we are here. We can all hear each other. We can all be heard. I guess we'll start with public comment. This is a free-for-all. Anybody has anything they'd like to say?
Yeah. If I can address you as Mr. Chairman to start off with, because I can't think of anybody better.
Yeah, but don't get used to it.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Hey, as a point of order, when we originally kicked off the Stormwater Committee, wasn't Jack Roddick the member?
I kind of vaguely think he was, but I'm not entirely sure.
So does that mean that we can honorarily ask Rob to become the member, the DPW member?
We started out with a 7-member group.
Yep.
Right.
We lost him.
I'm not sure the DPW was actually a listed member. Might have been ex officio, so to speak. But I mean, we've got 3 now. If we increase, we have to go to 5.
Yeah.
So we could potentially make him an ex officio. I mean, because the Economic Development Committee has 3 or 4 ex officio members. They can't vote, but they can participate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what we would need for, right?
Yeah. I got a better answer. Why don't we ask the boss? I'm looking at her.
Well, I guess that's me because I'm the only female in this group. So I would say maintaining that Rob attend meetings where he's needed, it would suffice.
Okay.
Versus.
Which is all basically 90% of the time. And I know Adam filled in nicely when Jack couldn't make it anymore. And Adam's real critical too, so.
Yep,
Why don't
they
you
both
just-
have their expertise that they bring to the table, so.
Yes, yeah. So then we could go to 5 and people could vote.
We could.
Well, I think that, I don't think Rob is a resident. I think that would prevent him being a member of the committee unless the selection
Oh.
changed something
Okay.
within that.
Well-
Would that necessarily prevent him from being an ex officio member?
I mean,
Not-
no, probably not. It depends on how the committee gets set up and what their charge and their duties were. I think the 3-member committee has worked well over the past couple of years. And I think that having Rob attend as necessary is probably the most efficient way to take advantage of his expertise.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so for now, until it gets figured out, Rob, we would love to have you come to the meetings when you can, and if you can, it will be great. You don't have to be a member to come. So that kind of
I'll be here whenever I can.
excellent. Thank you very much. All right, is there any other comment, concern, discussion? Anybody? All right, then I guess we'll get right into it. First, that's number 2, reorganization. Phyllis was the chair. I was the vice chair, so it made sense for me to run this meeting. I really, I'm pretty thinly stretched these days. I'm actually, I feel deficient in some of my obligations to the town as it is. So I neither want to be the chair nor the clerk. Actually, Heather, is there an opportunity to have somebody record the minutes for this meeting? I think we got somebody for other meetings.
Well, it's being recorded, so it can at a later date be transcribed.
Sure, but I mean, as far as the open meeting law, is it open meeting law that requires it within 3 months or so?
Public records.
Public record?
Now, does
Okay.
it automatically transcribe? Because I know I've gone back and I looked at my last conservation meeting and I saw a whole pile of transcription notes. And I didn't know if it was automated or if someone was actually trying to type it in. And I don't know, Heather, did we buy that feature?
No,
No?
not that I'm aware of.
Huh.
Brian Leighton for the TCP Building Design Committee, he had a 6-page minutes the last time I saw it. So that's almost transcription.
Yeah. Huh. I'll have to go find that out. I'm not volunteering though.
All right, so I think everybody knows how this goes. We need a motion and a nomination and a second, and nobody's absent, so they can't be duped into it. So willingness is a good thing. And I guess if push comes to shove, I can fill in for a little while. But like I said, I'd rather just be an attendee, a participant. So if anybody has,
Another committee.
so basically there's 3 of us. There's Todd,
No.
John, Jack, and myself. So
I
if
would.
we were in
You
person.
say you would do it for a short period of time?
I'm sorry?
I won't do it. Hey, Todd, what are you doing in your spare time? Something about
I
being.
I fish in my spare time, Jack.
Well, you can come to my house.
So I guess my question to you, Jack, we know how Matt feels. My question to you is, what role do you want to take?
Yeah. Yeah, right now I'm the primary, myself and another character are the primary antagonist on the Conservation Commission. And we've got them all upset at us. So, what do we envision this load to be? We're going to meet once a month, maybe, or twice a month?
I think, based on our previous meet rate since this past year, I think once a month, I think is reasonable.
Okay. Heather, how often do you want us to meet?
As needed. I think,
Yeah.
I'll volunteer for that. I'll try and figure out something for the minutes. I will. No, I appreciate you both. You guys are screaming. And right now I'm down in one committee and I just dumped my last client a month ago. So, yeah, but I've been having such a good time getting in trouble with conservation, right, Heather?
I don't watch those meetings, sorry.
You don't want to. You don't
They're
want
too
to.
long.
Oh, they're terrible. They're terrible. And so sure, I would, if nominated, I would serve with a little bit under duress, but I would serve. I'm not excited about it.
I nominate Jack Rabbit as chair of the Stormwater Task Force Committee.
That means even more the town's going to hate me soon.
That leaves me as a second. I'll second that.
Okay, and I would like to nominate Matthew as our vice.
Wait, you're jumping.
I thought we were going to do multiple. Okay.
No, we have a motion in a second.
Okay.
Do we have any nominations? I have to ask that because that's a parliamentary procedure or whatever.
Let's get Nick in here. What the heck? Come on, Nick, you can join.
I'm not a resident. I apologize.
That was the idea.
Since you asked, though, I will say that I work with over 20 other communities, and you are the only community I work with that has a designated task force to do this. So, monthly meetings are probably more than sufficient. I would leave it at that.
Okay.
I mean, we can try monthly,
however
and
you
always
guys
go
want
down
to
to
do it.
bi-monthly.
What? By the way, Todd, you did a nice job responding to the, I'm trying to divert here, to our citizen the other day. Okay, so I guess, is anybody else getting nominated besides you?
No. So we have a nomination and we have a second. So we're gonna have to do roll call vote. All in favor, Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Todd Dwyer,
Aye.
and an aye for myself. Congratulations, you are the new chair.
Oh, boy.
Do you want to take over?
And I have no idea what the agenda looked like. I did go up to my desk this week and pulled out all the other stuff. Tell you what, Matt, do we have a set agenda aside from Nick?
You can finish nominations and then it's Nick.
And it's Nick. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam.
I can finish this up if you want. Doesn't matter.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
I gotta go
Okay.
ask permission from my wife still, but
So we officially have a new chairperson.
okay.
So now we need a nomination for the vice chair.
Oh, I would like to nominate Matt as vice chair.
Matt Allison.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. Any other nominations?
Todd, would you like a shot at it?
Hearing none.
Ac-
It's been-
Actually, Matt,
Yeah.
I know you said you just wanted to be a member. I'm more than happy to be vice chair of the committee.
Well, that would stick me doing the minutes.
All the more reason he wants to be vice chair now.
Now I'm glad I chose chair. I didn't understand.
Okay, so it's been moved and nominated in second. Have to do roll call. All in favor? Jack Rabbit?
Excuse me, did we get it? Did Todd sign up, accept the nomination?
We
Doesn't sound like it.
haven't got yet.
Yeah, okay, I nominate Matt. I vote for Matt, excuse me.
Maybe I should have gone with the chair.
Yeah,
So it's been nominated and seconded, and there was no other nomination. So we'll do it by roll call vote. All in favor, Jack Rabbit,
aye.
Todd Dwyer,
Aye.
and an aye for myself. Congratulations to me. So now we need a nomination for the clerk.
I guess I would nominate Todd Dwyer.
All right. It's kind of weird to second yourself. So you're willing, I assume, Todd. I mean, they're really
I'll second myself. That's fine. Yep.
well. I'm not sure you're supposed to, but I can second. So, are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none. So we'll have to do roll call. All in favor of Todd being clerk? Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Todd Dwyer,
Aye.
and an aye for myself. Super. We are reorganized. Now we can get to the point of this meeting. So it's appointments. 7:05. We're a little late, but not bad. Meeting with CEI to hear updates on tasks associated with the MS4 permit. Nick, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Former Chairman. Very, very well done. Thank you, Mr. Former Chairman. Thank you, Mr. New Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And thank you, Adam, Heather, and Rob. So the first question I was going to ask is, when did you last meet? And it's really been over a year, huh? February last year. Okay. Well, did everyone get my email that I sent around earlier today about just a brief status update about where we are within our year 3 items?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Hopefully. Okay.
Yeah.
So we are currently within year 3 right now. Year 3 runs from previous July through this coming June. So even though we haven't met for quite a while, we have been moving forward with a number of things. So I think real quickly, I'm going to back up and just real quickly outline what else we did in year 2 between when we last met in February and the end of June. We did, probably one of the biggest things we did is the stormwater pollution prevention plans. So the permit requires preparing stormwater pollution prevention plans for the DPW yard, transfer stations, and essentially any other facilities that like maintenance facilities and other areas where pollutants can be exposed to stormwater. And I believe the only thing we had to do for you guys, fortunately, was basically pull together an abbreviated stormwater pollution prevention plan for the area associated with the old landfill, because you store catch basin cleanings and street sweepings and stuff in that area. So that was done, and Rob and I and Adam and Heather, we met probably back in January, I want to say. It was pretty much right after you came on board.
Yeah, I think it was December.
And it was December. Okay. So we had a nice meeting a few months ago and kind of, welcomed Rob to his new position and said, oh, congratulations. You have to do a whole bunch of stuff with stormwater. And he was ecstatic. I mean, you could not contain the energy from this guy. So we got going, and then we talked about a couple different things, and you and I talked about some of the dry weather screening that we had to do for outfalls, which continued into year 3. And I think the other major things we did was communities need to prepare an operation and maintenance plan that addresses parks and open space, equipment where it's exposed to stormwater, buildings and facilities, and those kinds of things. So pull together an operation and maintenance plan with a bunch of standard operating procedures that Rob, you've been kind of taking a look at in your spare time, just to go through and see if you have any issues, I guess. And I believe the last major thing we did had to do with developing a facility inventory for town-owned properties. So those are the major things that we did kind of the tail end of year 2, and which brings me to the email that I had sent around earlier, and which is task 1, the annual report. So the annual report, as you already know, the annual report is required to be submitted annually to the EPA every September. And the function of the annual report is basically to say, hey, EPA, this is what we did during the previous year, and this is what we propose to do during the future upcoming year. And the major thing about that is just to report on your status, anything that wasn't done and why it wasn't done. And we've been in touch with EPA throughout the permit process, and Newton Tedder, his #1 guidance says, don't lie on your annual report. Be very honest with what was done. And if something wasn't done, be upfront about why it wasn't done. And the good thing, at least about, the good thing about COVID, the only good thing about COVID is it kind of gave communities a bit of a pass on getting some of these things, some things done that weren't done, such as public education and outreach, such as certain trainings. And the big thing that a lot of communities didn't get done is regulations, because communities just couldn't meet as a group. I mean, certainly until we got up and running with, with Zoom meetings and those kinds of things that these just weren't going. So anyway, we submitted an annual report to EPA back in September. I mean, I'm pleased to announce that for the most part, you guys are in very good shape. You guys are in consistent shape with all my other communities. So that's good. And, I think we'll get into it a little bit more when I start running down the other things. I mean, I don't want to take up too much time because I think most of this is you guys are probably aware of. Any questions on the annual report that goes in every year?
Nick, or actually it's a question for Rob, I think, or maybe Adam. Where are we storing all these reports and how can people access them?
They are posted on the webpage. I'll have to.
On the Stormwater webpage?
Yes, I'll have to go back and verify that the last 2 years are up there, but if they're not, I'll make sure that they get up there this week.
Okay, great, thanks.
They're also available on EPA's website. Anything else in the annual report? All right. Task 2 is stormwater management plan and illicit discharges detection elimination plan updates. This task is also fairly straightforward.
I think Nick froze.
Yeah, he was coming in kind of blotchy for me earlier.
Yeah.
Heather, can you kick him out?
Getting tough already, Rob.
Okay.
But we are seeing Todd live, so that's a start.
I don't know if oh, he kicked himself out.
Oh, he's back.
I don't see him in the waiting room.
Oh, he's there. He's moving. Rob, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. No, Nick
It was
jumped
Nick.
out.
I mean, I'm sorry. You were down in the other corner a second ago.
It's not Hollywood Squares. We all move.
Yeah.
Right. He's our, oh, here he comes.
There he is.
Here he is.
Yeah.
Oh, his background changed.
Nick,
Better
we can't
Wi-Fi
hear
version.
you. You're muted.
All right, there we go. Hopefully I'm better now. Sorry, I moved closer to Wi-Fi. My kids were in this room before and they just went upstairs. So anyway. Okay, sorry about that. So the stormwater management plan and the IDD plan updates within task 2. Basically, EPA likes to see these documents updated once a year to update the progress that was made over the previous year. So for the IDDE plan, we'll be updating it by the end of June to reflect all of the dry weather screening and also the mapping actually that was done in your stormwater system over the last couple of years. And the stormwater management plan will also address the regulatory updates that have been done and adopted. The fact that the stormwater pollution prevention plans have been updated and adopted, your operation and maintenance plans have been updated and adopted. You have a comprehensive facility inventory now. So really it's just kind of getting a comprehensive plan in place that says, EPA, this is where everything is at, and this is where we'll be going over the next couple of years. So it's really as simple as that. CEI did not actually prepare your original stormwater management plan, but we're going to be updating that to reflect the format we use, mostly because well, we like it better. We think it's a little bit easier to understand and follow along with. So hopefully that's okay. And I guess that's really all I have to say about that task. Any comments, questions on that?
Just as a matter of reference, I did go to the website and 2020 is not included. So we just something we have to do.
I'll get that up there tomorrow.
Thank you, Adam.
Okay, task 3 is nutrient removal from existing stormwater BMPs. So because the town is subject to a phosphorus impairment for the Nashua River, we need to do an exercise where we essentially look at your existing stormwater management BMPs. So these are your infiltration basins and your detention ponds, bioretention gardens, anything that infiltrates. And what we need to do is we need to essentially evaluate that existing infrastructure to calculate how much pollution is already being removed by these structures. So we went out to about 20 different locations, and we got a whole bunch of information on size, depth, status, what kind of BMP it is. And then we did a fairly extensive desktop exercise, mostly in GIS, to figure out what is the land use that is going to each of these things. How much land use is going to these? What is the size of all these things? And we use a tool that is provided by EPA. It's called the BAT tool, which is I believe it is the BMP assessment and tracking tool. BAT, BMP at tool. And so we ran through an exercise, and we're mostly done with that. We need to just finish our last kind of internal exercise on that. But that's largely been done as well, and that's required. EPA actually doesn't really have a deadline on that, which means it's required by default during year one, which really doesn't make sense because you won't even have them mapped by the end of year one. But just in any case, that has been done as well. So you're up to date on that. Questions on that? Okay.
Not yet.
Task 4 is stormwater BMP inspections. So this is an annual inspection that needs to be done, and we've done it the last couple of years as well. And essentially, we just go out there, we look at all of your stormwater BMPs that I just very briefly mentioned, and evaluate them and see if there is any maintenance that's required. So if there's any erosion or sediment that's been built up, if anything has failed, and this is just an annual requirement that applies to all the different communities that these things be evaluated annually. We will pull together a brief memorandum and send it over to Rob, and then probably just have a brief discussion with him if there's anything that we've noticed that's really out of whack, I guess. I don't remember off the top of my head what the results were last year. I remember in general your system has been in pretty good shape, at least your outfalls and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. You
So
couldn't
let
find
me
7 of them or 5 of them. I remember that.
Mostly maintenance stuff, if I remember correct.
It's real. I mean, I have it up on my screen right now, and I can pull it up if you guys want. But it's cut and remove some vegetation, remove some sediment. Your systems were like amongst the best I've looked at. So, you guys are in good shape with these, which is good. Good.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Anything else on BMP inspections?
Good job, Rob.
Okay. Task 5, dry weather outfall sampling. So the town has 369 known stormwater outfalls, all of which need to be inspected during dry weather flow by the end of this coming June. Fortunately, we have already attempted to inspect all of your outfalls. So you guys are already ahead of the 8 ball in this. We have there were about 57 outfalls that we couldn't locate or access. And what we're looking at doing is what we will probably do is we have about $4,000 left under this task, and it's time materials. And typically what we do is we've been giving the town the option that either the town can go out and see how many of these things we can locate, or we can go out and kind of do a first cut. And we've started to do this with a couple of our other communities. And what we've been doing is we've been going out now because there's no leaves on the trees. And we have been typically being able to find about a third to even about a half of these outfalls, which has been surprisingly really good because, these are outfalls that we've tried to go find and couldn't find previously. So I would recommend, it's up to you, I would recommend that you authorize CEI to use the rest of this budget to go out and try and locate as many of these outfalls as we can. The $4,000 will probably give us another couple field days out there. And, again, it'll allow us to hopefully try and locate these outfalls before this June deadline, which is the requirement. And then, if there's any outfalls that we still couldn't locate, either we can go try and locate them again, probably in the fall, I would say, once the leaf litter is down. But based on the success we've had in other communities, I would recommend moving forward with that because we have had pretty good luck with that.
Excuse me, a quick question for Heather. Heather, didn't we receive some grants for some of this development work by Nick. Were there any federal grants or state grants for any of that?
No, you're thinking of
MVP.
MVP
No.
program.
Okay, so if we, in other words, that's our money, and if we don't have to spend it, it would be okay?
You mean in this year's operating budget for stormwater?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend that this work does get done this year when we have the excess funds. That's way we're ahead of the game.
Okay, let's do it. I'm just trying to be always sensitive to where you are.
I agree with that. You know, ordinarily I'd say, sure, I can pitch in, but as a department, we don't have GPS gear. I can't, you know, go out and tag them for you other than hang a flag. What I can recommend, Nick, or offer is when you do this work, if it helps having, you know, a town truck with you to someone knock on a door and this is who we are. I'm more than happy to do that or have one of the guys do that. So we can coordinate that, but just an offer.
Great. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, that tends to be helpful in some of the areas. You know, let me get out there and kind of see how we do. I mean, you guys aren't too bad. You guys aren't too heavily developed, so we should be mostly okay on our own.
Yeah, I would say it's the ones you don't have access to, whether it's an ornery owner or whatever. I can help you with those.
Great.
I have
Yeah,
no problem knocking on doors and, you know, saying what we need.
Awesome.
Well, oh, excuse me, but all these outfalls, they should be within easements, so there should not be any ornery owner issues.
Well, it should be an easement, and actually in easements are two different things. Historically, in every town's different, but I'm willing to bet we have outfalls, you know, present that exist that don't have easements. So occasionally you run into an owner who doesn't want to let you on their property.
We've only had the cops called on us once, to my knowledge, at least.
Dogs. Okay.
No dogs that I know, but we had one crew they blocked their car in and called the cops and refused to talk to our field crew.
Oh, wow.
And they called me up in a panic, saying like, "What do I do?" I said, "When the cop shows up, just tell him you're working for the town and you're looking for their outfalls." And then he called me up 5 minutes later, like, "Oh yeah, we're fine." So, anyways.
Okay, hey, I'd accept a motion that we go ahead and approve that 4,000 such that they can get it done before the leaves really come on the trees.
I have a quick question for Nick before that, Jack. In your summary, it indicates in addition to locating outfalls, you're going to be sampling. So if you're getting flow out of these outfalls, you're going to be doing some collection of water samples for water quality testing.
Yes, if we find the outfalls, we're doing our full dry weather investigation. So we would evaluate them for dry weather flows and illicit discharges.
Okay, and what is the cost of the flow or the cost of the sampling that you're doing, the laboratory testing that you're running on?
Each sample, we only send at most 2 or 3 samples to the lab at about $30 a piece, and then everything else we do with field kits or field equipment, which is basically negligible.
So you're roughly 100 to 150 if you have to sample for each one. So
Yes.
It really shouldn't impact your ability to be out there for a couple of days.
No, we'll see. Let's see. My next note, it says out of the 256 outfalls we evaluated so far, 9 had flow.
Okay.
So, extrapolating out, you can probably figure maybe a couple of these will have flow. And to be honest, most of the time we've gone back to try and relocate these. They're not flowing because if they were flowing, they would have been easier to find in the first place.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Anything else on this?
Accept the motion.
Okay. Thank you. Task 6.
Hold on then,
Oh,
Nick.
you have a motion? I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You gotta do roll call, Jack, on the
I'm gonna
video.
call out your name because it could be people on the phone. Okay, Matt,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Mike for Jack. Okay. So it's unanimous. Heather, we're spending your money.
Okay, task 6 is regulatory mechanism assistance. So Adam, you can probably talk better to this than I can, but as far as I'm aware, your bylaw has passed town meeting by a lot, and you guys are up and running on this, correct?
We are. We actually have our first application under the new bylaw in front of the planning board right now. It came as a little bit of culture shock to them when they realized that it wasn't the old standards, but I think that they're going to be able to handle it, and our consultant is on board with reviewing it, and he understands the standards. He says he's got a couple of other towns that are already using them, so we'll be first rodeo with them. So we should be in good shape with that.
Okay. Feel free to reach out to me if there's any issues or any questions that come up, because this is going to be a little bit of a learning year for the town, but everyone's going to be kind of in the same situation. But I'm happy to work with you guys on that.
I think it's going to be as big a learning year for the design engineers as anybody.
Yep.
I don't envy them anymore. I'm so glad I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Okay. But that is essentially done. So what we have been working on a little bit is doing basically moving ahead in the game and doing an evaluation of the town's existing regulations for low impact development and green infrastructure, and any regulations that regulate the creation of impervious area. So this particular item isn't required until the end of next June, but we briefly discussed it internally and said, well, we're already kind of doing some regulatory work anyway. So, maybe this would be a good opportunity to kind of segue into what's essentially phase 2 of these regulatory reviews, which would be looking at things like your site plan review and subdivision regulations and zoning regulations, and saying, is there something on the books that says each roadway in town shall be 40 feet wide with a 10-foot sidewalk on the end? And are there ways to tighten up some of these regulations so that they're not creating quite so much impervious area? Or are there barriers to implementing low impact development and green infrastructure? So we have started to do that, and that will likely continue into next year because it's due by the end of June. And what is required by the town by the end of next year is not necessarily to have all of these items in place, all these changes made. It is to have a plan in place that says these are the kinds of things we need to alter or we need to change in the regulations. So so that's what we're working towards. And you guys, because we've already started this, you guys are kind of ahead of the game on this particular requirement. But that's you guys will be in good shape going into next year.
Well,
on this.
We've already started talking about a LID bylaw in planning. Are you familiar at all with Westminster's?
Yes, I was there, and yes, I am very familiar with Westminster's because
You sent it to us.
Okay, well there you go. I sent it to you.
Good.
Yes, I believe Tetra Tech was working with planning in Westminster on their LID bylaw, and yep. So, anyways, yes, I'm familiar with that one.
Good. That's probably going to be very similar to the one we put together.
Because what was the threshold on that? Was that like a 5,000 square foot or something like that?
I honestly don't recall.
Okay.
I think there's a 5 and a 10. And I think the 5 is like a light, and the 10 is the full blown.
Hey, if I could, just a question: does that affect also personal property, such as a driveway and such on a peninsula that's pretty sensitive? A 600-foot driveway, 14 feet wide, tarred. Would that fall under these kind of regulations or guidance?
Set of regulations.
Well, I mean, we don't have any regulations, but some sort of a LID bylaw.
Well, it's existing, so LID is development, so I don't think it would necessarily apply.
Okay. I'd have to read it. I'm sorry. We have another big debate going on in conservation right now. And it's a sizable area of impervious material, imperviousness sitting on top of an esker. But anyway, I'll go read it. Never mind. It was just a quick question. I'm just trying to save some time. Go ahead.
Anything else on this one? Okay. Task 7 is meetings. Here we go. We met with Rob earlier, and it's just a line item that we carry to do meetings, and I don't have anything else to add on that one. Does anyone else have anything to talk about on meetings? Okay. So the last 3 tasks that we're in the contract for this year are optional tasks that we have to get authorization and notice to proceed on. And these, I don't know if Phyllis was the driving force behind these a couple years ago. I'm not really sure what the history is, but so task 8 is there was an original task to have some funding available for us to assist with public education or public outreach, I guess. So this would be hosting a workshop or something to that nature. Last year, we took these funding and we reallocated it towards doing additional dry weather screening, if I remember properly. And because I think last year we were thinking that we'd only get about 50% of your outfalls screened during dry weather, and having reallocated the funding from these 3 tasks last year, we bumped it up to like 75 or 80%. So there's tasks here to do public outreach. There's stuff to do a stormwater utility feasibility study. Let's tackle those 2 first. Is there any desire to move forward with either of these tasks this year?
Well, I, for one, I kind of think that, I looked it up, developing a way to pay for this is, I kind of thought, our primary focus for the task force. And we did have a speaker come in from another town who had developed a utility and gave a great presentation to us. I think we need to look at funding sources, because this is just going to keep getting more and more expensive. And I think utility is probably the most fair way to spread it around. I don't know, but I definitely would like to hear about it.
Matt, I agree with you. In fact, the lesson I walked away with is it just doesn't happen overnight. It's the 3 or 4 year investment, and you got to be putting something into it. So we just hadn't decided how we were going to do it or what it was going to look like, and we were still wrestling with what could the stormwater utility look like and what could it do. And they had given us, the company had given us some examples of what they had done. I'd have to go back and resurrect that and take a look at it, but I certainly wouldn't want to say, no, we're not going to do something along those lines. I wouldn't turn it back just yet. When do we have to have all this money spent, Heather?
This fiscal year, unless the task is being worked on at the end of the year, it's encumbered then.
Okay.
That portion of the task.
And that's September, right?
June 30th.
June 30th.
Okay.
Yeah, so this task would just really be to just do almost like a very introductory study on the stormwater utility and prevent some options, to actually develop a stormwater utility. As you mentioned, I mean, is a multi-year phased approach. And the biggest issue is public education and informing people that, what this thing does. And it's not just a rain tax.
Mm-hmm.
It's always thrown out there.
Okay. Heather,
so,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Nick. Excuse me.
No, I was going to say it's entirely up to you what you choose to do with this task. It doesn't really matter to me. I really don't. It's up to you guys.
Yeah.
Your money.
Now, Heather, if in order to encumber this, do we have to go more than making a commitment to spend it with the contractor?
Yes. Yeah.
We actually
begin the work on it.
Okay. I'll if that's okay, I'll give you a holler and you can, or point me to somebody to find out what we need to do there. Okay.
So the intention to begin on that task then?
I would think if it's the money's in there, yeah, we at least need to start. Now we can make this a contract that lasts 3 years, can't we, as part of a 3-part contract? And maybe in the first piece is a development, then we call it that. And we outline some general areas, we'll call Nick, and then at least we can get the funds in place to draw on for next year, as well as the following year that we have not yet established, I believe.
That's within the next year's budget estimate. So
Yeah.
whenever that task was carried over as well.
Okay. Okay. Let me nose around and write something up, I guess, and take it to the board and see if you guys agree, and we'll try and get a holding position. What do you think, Todd, Matt?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. we need a funding source, and we need the ammunition to move forward to present to the town. And I think this is
Without
the first
energy,
step we have to
nothing
take.
moves, right? Without energy, nothing moves.
Right.
Guys, the engineers, yeah. Okay.
Heather, the money's already allocated within the budget for this year, correct?
Yes.
So if they wanted to move forward, we could authorize Nick to move forward with that task. That task would begin, and even if it begins and he's underway and isn't completed by June 30th, the remainder of that funding can be encumbered and we can just continue into next year, correct?
Yeah, just confirm with Karen and.
But yeah, okay. So there's no need for scope of work or multi-year contract or any of that. It's all already in place and it's covered under the tasks that they've already signed for.
Right.
Yeah,
We just have to look. That one might be time and materials.
I don't have the contract information.
So, Nick, what are you doing under that task? You just basically providing some research time, other towns, kind of outline of what other towns have done, what other communities have set up utilities.
Can I
What is
share?
that?
I'm gonna share. Can I share my screen? I can pull it up.
Let me see. Can you do it now? It says multiple participants can share.
You guys see this?
Yep.
Okay, so this is our task. So this would be just an initial task to look at some different alternatives and real preliminary recommendations for looking at a stormwater utility. You know, kind of do some meetings like we're doing now and look at some options. Look at your organizational structure, data. I mean, some of this is a little bit older language because now we have I think we probably carried this over from year one. We really didn't know as much about you. And now I know more. Been working with you for a couple of years now. But you know, basically just be looking at laying some of the groundwork for a more detailed study to happen at a later date.
Have you already done this with some other communities?
I personally have not, which is not the right answer to give as a consultant, but I'm being honest with you.
I've worked with CEI on a project very similar to this through to presenting the utility. So the firm itself has the capacity and the history of doing this. And that this was almost a decade ago that we.
Okay. Wow.
And I love your honesty, Nick. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nick, you should have said CEI has in the past.
CEI has in the past. Yes, exactly. Hold on, I gotta get my battery.
First it was your Wi-Fi, now it's your battery.
I know. Well, you know, I have a brand new laptop that I haven't set up yet. I gotta find it. Okay. So I guess that's kind of where that task is. Anything else that we need to discuss on that?
In regards to the public outreach task, I would maintain that funding where it is. We need to assess what we have and have not done for outreach.
Okay.
So I think it would be wise to keep that under that task.
Okay. And the only other thing we haven't talked about yet is the IDDE training. We had carried a task previously to do an IDDE training session with the town, and last year was it Sierra, Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition, I think, that held a training session.
Yes.
And you guys attended that, and that presentation, I believe, is available online. I believe there's a video available.
Right, because they're still remote.
Yes. So it's up to you. You can pay CEI to do it, or you can do the training session online and you know, document essentially that you watched that video and are up to date on the training. And we can reallocate that funding for whatever you would like to use it for.
Yeah. And who was it primarily directed to? You know, is it Rob? Is it your group? Is that
I can.
the training was going?
The IDD training?
Yeah.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
It's outfall investigation and illicit discharge tracking and identifying it. Phyllis and I went to it the first year that the Central Mass Stormwater Coalition did it. It's popping manholes, it's looking at outfalls, it's sampling sort of stuff, and how do you track backwards, and how do you triangulate and zero in on where the illicit discharge is coming from.
And Nick, you said that's still up on the coalition's website?
I checked a few days ago, and yeah, it was still up there. It's like 2.5 hours long, but I mean, it's pretty comprehensive. It does a pretty good job, honestly, of really running through what needs to be done. On the other hand, I mean, it's probably overkill for what your average person needs to know. I mean, really, these things need to be targeted to your DPW guys, your highway guys, anyone that could be out there and potentially come across an illicit discharge. So these are mostly going to be your guys that are involved with cleaning catch basins, manholes, looking at your outfalls and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think my guys have been through it. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask. But if it's still up on their website, I can certainly pick a day and set a couple of them down. At least my superintendent and who's ever going to be primarily running the catch basin cleaning truck. Because you're right, that's a good person because they're out there, they see it, and probably myself. So it's already something I'm somewhat familiar with, but I might as well sit through the training with them so I can, guide them as well. So I'll look into that for my department.
Is there a cost to access the video? Is that the $2,000, or was that having you come in, your team doing the training, Nick?
That would have been for us to come down and do an in-person training. The video itself is free.
Yeah. So then we could take that $2,000 and send it over to remodel Rob's office, right?
Yep.
If anything, Nick, and you folks, I'd rather see that get reallocated towards the outfall locating and testing program.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah, I agree. That'll give us about an extra day and a half probably out there.
That take a motion to move it, Heather?
Can make a motion, make it official.
Do we need to? I thought it was already allocated, and
It's getting reallocated out of the IDD training into the outsourcing. Which one? Regulatory mega
Fall investigation.
outfall, yeah, sampling.
Yeah, we need notice to proceed on that.
okay. So moved.
Second. Oh God, you got a second. I'm sorry.
I second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Matt,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Jack, aye. It's unanimous. So we'll take, Heather, we can take the 2,000 out of the IDD training, task number 10, and move it up into Outwater, task number 5. Do we have to send you a note to that, or how does that work? No? I don't know.
We'll keep it simple.
Okay, bless your heart. Thank you. Okay. Nick, is there anything more?
That's where we're at right now. That's where we're at, and that's where we're going by the end of June.
Okay.
Anything else for me?
Would you have a recommendation as to what we should be doing next?
Next year?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Oh, boy.
I do.
Oh, this is so easy.
I do.
Like a
Where's
the barrel.
Where's my thing? So next year, so I had sent Heather a cost estimate. And Heather, I don't know if you want to get into this in detail, if you just want to talk, more high level stuff about the tasks, up to you.
You can lead that. That's fine. As far as high level, what needs to be done in that.
Okay. So high level, just real briefly, next year we have our ongoing annual things. So this is going to be we'll be doing an annual report. They'll go in again in September. We will be likely updating your stormwater management plan and IDDE plans again next year. I would expect those to be relatively more simple in nature because we'll only have 1 year to update rather than 2. We will be doing your stormwater BMP inspections again next year. Then we kind of get into some of the things that we've already kind of started on. So for instance, that low impact development and green infrastructure regulatory assessment, that's due by the end of next year. And probably the 2 biggest things that have to be done next year is, first thing is communities need to look at their municipal properties and develop opportunities for retrofitting them with stormwater BMPs. And we need to look at least 5 different locations within the town that could conceivably be retrofitted in some capacity to treat stormwater. And your focus is going to be Phosphorus because you're within the Nashua River. So so that's kind of task number 1 is where are our best opportunities to treat stormwater? Where are the areas that are already discharging the most polluted stormwater runoff? And it's mostly based on land use. So you kind of start with a GIS exercise. And then like what we'd be doing is doing some kind of probably some pre-conceptual or conceptual level designs at several different locations within the town that, and that's all you have to do. You don't actually have to build these things under this piece of the permit. Under some of the previous drafts, you actually had to go and start building these things like 1 a year. And fortunately for town budgetary purposes, that requirement was removed because that would have been extraordinarily expensive to implement. But we still need to do the kind of lay the groundwork for these things. That's one of the things we'll be doing next year.
Chris, just thinking, Matt, didn't we do that for the previous group? We'd identified where we wanted to put a pile of improvements with regard to stormwater, like 5 of them we selected.
We did apply for what was up a 319 grant for the Mulpus,
Yeah.
but that didn't fly. That
Okay.
I don't know what else you might be talking about.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. And I'm wondering, do we want to just hurry up and get our application in again?
We can reapply, right? I mean, that was before we had CEI. That was with
Right. The other,
and they gave us some pointers on how to improve the application that was denied.
right.
So I'm not sure. I'm sure I have it. I'm not sure where it is.
Yeah, we'll dig it out as well. Nick, maybe we can short circuit some of that, and because we had gone through quite a bit and spent quite a bit of money with them to help us come up with that top 5, and perhaps we'll dig it out and send it over to you, Nick, and take a look quickly with regard to the deadline, and we can go and do another application.
Well, I mean, certainly anything that's been done already. I mean, if you have you already looked at the top 5, or was that what your application was to do?
The application was for the upper Mulpus to, it was under the new category they had a few years ago to protect a threatened watershed, I think, or I'm trying to remember what it was, but to protect a clean watershed. And it was along the Mulpus, pre-Hickory Hills, sort of from New West Townsend Road across Chase Road, down across Holman Street, and it was catch basin and outfall upgrades to prevent sedimentation and inflow of other road and dirt material into the Mulpus that were potentially creating hazards that were flowing down into Hickory to reduce some of the velocity and volume to prevent some of the erosion as you get closer to Hickory Hills Lake. And I think some of the comments were revolving around the methodology in which the consultant used to prove that it was a clean watershed. So I think I do have that information. I'll try and pull it out and put it together.
That's Adam's turn.
And I think
Okay.
it was separate than the top five, because the top five is upgrading existing BMPs at town facilities, correct?
Or constructing new BMPs. It's
Okay,
retrofitting,
yeah. And I
retrofitting
think
your
we-
municipal properties.
Yeah, we had talked about some of that, but I don't think they ever came up with a full list of them. And I think like the
Okay.
library was one that kept coming up.
Okay. Yeah, well, send me what you have and we can look at some
Okay.
options because there's 319, I believe, has a 40% match. So that's kind of the real big downside about that is you get to cough up 40% of the total project cost as a match. 604B grant is another option. They typically tend to be a lot smaller in nature, and they usually only award like 4 or 5 of them, but that typically has no match. So anyway, there's a couple different opportunities out there. I don't remember where you guys are. So you guys probably aren't eligible for the SNEP grants. Those are Southeast, and you guys probably aren't eligible for CZM, the Coastal Zone Management grants either, because you guys are not on the coast or near the coast. You'd be surprised how far inland some of those grants go, but anyways. All right, well, send me what you have and we'll see if we can come up with something.
That brings up a good point. I guess we haven't uploaded the information that was done with the prior group and tried to link them into what you're seeing, and perhaps we can move a little faster at a lower cost or something, Man, I don't know what Phyllis might have shared with them. Do you?
What? I'm sorry?
Information that we got from the other folks that did the work.
Yep.
I don't know if we've passed them all a lot information off to Nick or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
We have?
Mhm.
Okay.
I should have just about everything. I don't know if I've seen grant applications and those kinds of things, but I had the stormwater management plan that was done the first time around and your original mapping. And those kinds of things. Yeah.
And all the data files.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else about that particular item? Otherwise, I have one last thing.
You're doing good.
Okay. So the very last thing, which is probably your biggest ticket item for next year, is going to be we need to do a phosphorus source identification report for the Nashua River. And essentially, what we'll be doing is it's due by the end of year 4, and the main thing about it is you're basically looking at your watershed, everything within the Nashua River watershed, running some calculations on it and figuring out which of your outfalls are contributing the most phosphorus load to the river at some point, eventually down gradient. Prioritizing non-structural controls such as additional street sweeping, catch basin cleaning, and then eventually what you're going to need to do is design and build a stormwater BMP as a demonstration project within the watershed. And that stormwater BMP needs to be in place by the end of year 6. So typically what we recommend is you do the plan next year, then you do the BMP design in year 5, and then you build it in year 6, because it helps kind of spread out those costs a little bit more than waiting to do, for instance, waiting to do the design and the construction in 1 year. So that's your biggest ticket item for next year. And then after that, then you're a little bit more into the kind of more ongoing stuff. So doing ongoing system mapping and outfall screening and that kind of thing. So questions on that last item?
Yeah, I do, Nick. First of all, I hadn't noticed this before on the phosphorus BMP demonstration project. That's huge. Something like that, do you think there's specifically for that? I mean, if communities are having to sink, $50,000 into a project, basically a pilot project for phosphorus removal, is that completely unfunded, or do you think there's some grant opportunity somewhere for that?
Well, that's a good question. The grant thing is always a little bit weird, because the way most of the grants are written is that, like, for instance, you can't apply for a 319 grant and say, I'm going to build a demonstration BMP to meet this phosphorus, TMDL, and impaired waters requirements. However, you can typically word it such that, well, we're going to look within this watershed because it's a priority location and come up with a high priority location and then build a BMP. And then it just so happens to coincide with your MS4 permit requirements. And typically those, if you're successful in your grants, we have seen communities be able to leverage that funding to kind of get around that provision in the grants. The other thing I will say is there is nothing in the permit itself that mandates that you need to build a monster stormwater BMP that treats 17 acres of impervious runoff. You just need to build a public demonstration BMP. So if you can make a case that, well, we determined that a priority location is at our town hall and we want to build a rain garden, then you may be able to get away with it, that being your demonstration project.
All right, but we're gonna have to rely on the ID report you're gonna do coming up to kind of identify that, and hopefully we've got one big contributor and we can one project and get it offline. But you know, I have my doubts. But that's something to talk about moving forward. That's caught me off guard. I hadn't seen that in there.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely pricey. It's definitely pricey. And I need to pull together some updated costs for the town, for Heather and you, Rob, and both you guys, all of you guys really, because those costs I've given you are almost 2.5 years old or something like that, 1.5 years old, 2.5 years old. So we'll get you some updated costs when you need them. But that's kind of where we're at and where we're going. Anyone else have anything?
Just a question to Heather. Heather, did you receive the workup, the proposed workup from Nick? Have you received that for next year?
Yes.
Okay, and did it look, well, you just in the pile right now?
As far as
No,
the,
in terms of,
it's in the budget.
in the budget? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess I should have said that. And that would include the phosphorus ID activity?
The estimate that Nick provided, yep, that is in the budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Heather, not to dwell on this one, but both those items for fiscal year 23 and then 24 for the phosphorus, for the design, and then the construction. Is that something we're going to have to put in the capital planning? Because I don't know if we can just, it's not reflected. Well, I guess it is reflected in his recommended budget for that year. So maybe that answers my question, because I guess the cost on the individual tasks is going down, and those just become major parts of that budgeting. So I guess we're going to be able to budget for it or ask for it that way.
Yes, for next year.
Yeah, next year and
year,
24 as well.
Yeah, we'd have to look at what's involved and if it meets the criteria of a capital project. But otherwise, I would consider it more, we should include it in the operating budget as far as, because it is a continuing operation cost.
Okay, all right. That's
Looks like you might be designed to those standards anyway, Rob.
We've already got them in place, don't we?
So I'll bring this up now. We got our annual town meeting in May coming up. That would be an opportunity for a very inexpensive or free public outreach. And then we're going to have our farmers market from June to October. That would be another place. It wouldn't cost anything. The farmers market will give the vendor booth space for nothing, as long as they're not selling anything, if it's public outreach or charity. So we've done that in the past. We've gone before the town meeting, the day before, to the DPW and picked up a rain barrel and the composters and just had those on display at the entrance to the town meeting. And we put them out at the farmer's market.
Yeah.
So that's something else we can continue to do.
And we also had that stormwater kiddie play pool.
I think that's still in Adam's space there, isn't it?
Is it really?
The Enviroscape?
The other day?
The Enviroscape?
Yeah.
I don't think that's at my space.
No?
Phyllis might still have it.
Well, okay, that's the last place I saw it then. Phyllis must have brought it and taken it home. I don't know where it is though.
Yeah, I'll touch base with Phyllis because I would like to have Phyllis bring us up to where we were when we left, because
And that was the Stormwater Coalition's Enviroscape.
Was it?
I think it was.
Are you sure it wasn't Sarah Cameras? Didn't Sarah have one?
I don't believe so.
I thought we actually had two floating around for a while, then that we passed one back. I'm not really sure. I know that was Phyllis's side of it. I just put signs up and things like that.
I don't think the town has ever had them. I think that they were borrowed.
Okay. So, but I like your idea in that there's an opportunity for some outreach. Let's see what we can pull together between now and May. And then, of course, the farmers market's a great idea. Continual presence there.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. We'll put it in right next to the alpacas.
I'm not sure they're coming back this year. They weren't there last year because of COVID.
Yeah, I think Jackie's probably she's getting active again, so she'll be back out there.
Oh, Jackie was there.
Yeah.
Just
selling her stuff. Okay. Is there any, since we don't have an agenda, normally we try to create an agenda for the next meeting. What are our action items? What do you believe they are? Well, we obviously the outreach piece, coordination on the outreach, right?
That would be the only one that I'm aware of.
Yeah. And we want to do an update on what we found in relationship to Nick's list. I want to do an update on that. Heather, were you going to send us anything?
Send you what?
I don't know. I just she's gonna do something.
She delegated it to me and I sent you the update.
Ah, okay, there you go. And we're going to confirm any information we have back with regard to the MOPUS and the BPB best management practices.
Yeah, I'll get the 319 information back to Nick.
Okay. I'm totally winging it here, folks. Totally.
Jack, do we want to dig into the, starting process of drafting a lit regulation based on some area towns?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Planning board has already started to do that.
Planning board has mentioned that they would like to do it, so it might be worth it to do in conjunction with.
Sure.
Yeah.
Since, in my experience, they're going to be the ones who, times out of 10, are enforcing it and handling some of the larger aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
And as we found with the stormwater bylaw, they had some very particular thoughts about certain aspects.
Sure.
Yeah. And we'll try and mosey through those reports that are going up. Someone's going to put the reports up, Adam. Yeah. Is the reports structure readable to the public at this point? I guess
I think as much as it can be.
Yeah, I mean, they're not, it's not a page turner, but figure out what's happening.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that one of the things that always strikes me is that people are interested, but they don't know how to find it. And so, yeah, we can talk about that. Perhaps how we can make our website more effective, because if we're really going to try and do some community outreach, I know Phyllis had put some stuff up there. I've forgotten. I've totally forgotten. So
Actually, Adam put a lot of stuff up on the.
oh, okay. I wasn't sure who put it up. Is that the vehicle, Adam? We would ask you to put the stuff up.
Yeah, if you have stuff that you want up there, shoot it over to me and I'll.
Okay.
But I think there's what I was saying is there's a lot of material up on that.
Is there?
Yeah. And it's divided into target audiences, and
Okay,
it is in I'll say in very broad categories, but it should be pretty easily digestible. I mean, I'm not sciencey or engineering, and I try to make it so that when I post stuff like that, it's in a way that people can look at it and understand at least what they're looking for.
okay.
And are we still member of Central Mass Coalition? Have we paid our dues and whatnot?
We should be.
As far as I know, we are.
So there's some assistance available there as well, I believe.
There is.
Coalition status on that. Okay. Next meeting?
I think that's really the key, is when you want to hold your next meeting.
Yeah. A month. I'm gone next week and then back for a week and then I'm gone in the following week. And so what does that put us into the
I mean, I would think we're into April at this point.
May, early May? Yeah. How busy are you guys? You don't want to even think about it, Heather, I know.
Not to a town meeting.
You may be better to go after town meeting,
After town meeting?
unless you want to try and meet before town meeting to
No,
strap
I
what
think
you want to
we got
bring.
work to do.
Well, then we would just have to wing it for the presentation or public outreach material.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That's fine. I mean, Rob, are there still rain barrels at DPW?
Yeah, in fact, we just brought some more in, so I can make sure we pull a rain barrel and a composter aside, make sure we have a couple ready to go.
So I think it was, might not have been last year, might have been the year before, that we returned it with it still had the plastic covering over like a little ditty about it. I don't know if you've still got one there.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything with them. I'll take a look and
That's
see what
fine.
we have.
I think I was keeping them in the Quonset hut out back.
Yeah, well, I know the guys brought a couple down into the garage, but I can go look up top to see if there's, if they're still in the packaging with instructions or anything like that with them.
Are we still
Sure.
selling both for $80? Same price, no price change?
Oh, I have no idea.
I don't know. Hey, would it make sense to have a quick work session before that?
I think we should have one meeting before town meeting, even if it's short.
Yeah, I think the 22nd is probably your best bet, the 15th and the 22nd then.
Come on, calendar.
That works for me.
22nd of April, of May? No, April.
Of April.
Yeah, it's good for me. That'd be Thursday night?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was April 22?
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay. Now, are we gonna need to have Nick with us then? I don't think we will, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So was there anybody else that needed the later hour? I mean, just throwing it out there, it doesn't make much difference to me. Just trying to afford everybody's schedule.
You have a hard time getting there before 7, though, don't you, Matt?
Me, no, I'm working from home now.
That's right. We're all doing that now.
Yeah.
Todd, what's good for you?
7 o'clock works well for me.
Okay. 7 o'clock? That's okay. So we have to arrange with you to get a Zoom number, Heather. What's the mechanism for that?
We have the remote meeting coordinator. Send an email to Neil Trahan.
I'll reach out to him.
Oh, thank you, Adam.
I can get him to do it on Steve's account. I have all that password, and then he doesn't have to show up and log us in.
There you go.
Good.
So other than that, it is 8:20. Is there a target an hour or 2 hours, 6 hours, like in conservation?
I was hoping like 44 minutes.
45 minutes. Yeah.
45 minutes. Okay. At 7 o'clock, and we'll build an agenda around that. Okay. Do we have to reach out to anybody else? Do we have to send something into the newspaper to say we're going to have a meeting?
No, it just needs to go to the town clerk,
Just has to go to the town clerk?
48 hours prior.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be recorded in the newspapers or anything like that?
No, we're not having public hearings. We're not
Public
doing
hearing.
anything that has
Okay.
statutory advertising requirements.
Okay, great. That's even better. That's even better. And, okay, Adam, I tell you what, can you be the liaison with the clerk and the meeting
Sure,
coordination and stuff? Would that be okay?
I can do that.
Oh, you're such a good guy. You are a good guy even if you hadn't, but you're still a good guy. Okay. Okay, if nothing else, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. And Matt, thank you so much for leading us off. Leading
Oh,
the-
yeah.
So
I'm just
moved.
Oh, we got a second?
second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Roll call vote, Chair.
Oh, that's right. All those in favor? Matt,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Jack, aye. We're out of here, folks. Thank you so much.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you all.
Thank you.
Matt,
Good night, all.
kept
Night.
up for getting this done.
Thank you all. If you guys need anything, give me a shout.
I will now.
Thanks, Nick.
So much.
Thank
Have a good night, everyone.
Heather,
Have a great
thank
night.
you. Rob, thank you.